How's it going, everyone, and welcome to your second Java tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be going over variables, arithmetic, and conditional statements. So right here I have some code written here for you guys, and it says, what are variables? So variables are things that hold some sort of value, and they can be numbers, characters, or just a single character. And in order to define a variable, you have to define a data type. And what a data type is an integer, is it a string, a boolean, a floating integer? There's a lot. So the three main ones that we use are integers, strings, and booleans. Integers are used for numbers, strings are used for characters, and booleans are just true or false statements. So whenever you're making a variable, you want to have it in this format. So you define the data type initially, you then define the variable name, and then equal to some sort of value. So here are some examples of variable declarations. So the first one we have is int number is equal to 16. So whenever you're defining an integer, you write int in the front and then the variable name. Boolean is pretty much the same thing. All these variables are defined in the same way. You just change up the data types and then the name. You can't have two variables with the same name. It's going to throw an error. So Boolean condition is equal to true. We could have also written this as false. So then we have a string and it's called welcome, and this is just a message. Inside of these double quotations, we can write anything. We can write any sort of character. So there can be dashes, there can be exclamation marks, question marks, periods, brackets, stars, so on and so forth. There are some limitations as to what you can name your variables, but usually you have a pretty large choice. You can pretty much make it whatever you want. There are some words that you can't use, and those are reserved words. And these reserved words are stuff like main, super, else if, else, short, super switch. All these words you're not going to be able to use because they're reserved by Java and they have specific, they do stuff. So you can't use that in your variable name. Something to keep in mind is that when you're making a variable name and it has two words in it, like, say for example, let's say it has two words and you want to just combine them together. You can't put a space in between the variable names. So say, for example, you want to have a string called apple pie. String apple pie is equal to this is delicious. This won't work because there's a space in between. So what you would do is you would combine it together and capitalize the second word. And this is known as camel case. It's just good practice, and it helps the users just understand what's going on. So these are just quick little definitions of variables, some declarations. Now let's move on to basic arithmetic. So right here we have a few statements. So I defined number 1 is equal to 12 and number 2 is equal to 3. We're going to do some basic arithmetic with this. So we're going to use the division operator and print out 12 divided by 3. And of course that prints out 4. Then we do number 1 times number 2, which is of course 12 times 3, 36. And then we can also add, and then we can also subtract, and that of course will give us 9, which is right there. And something to keep in mind, when you're doing exponents, you can't just write two multiplication signs or that pointy hat, which is the exponential sign. It's not going to work. It actually treats this as an addition. I'm not sure why, but it does. So in order to use exponents, you're going to have to use the math.pow operator, and the first value is your base, and the second value is your exponent. So this is pretty much 12 to the power of 3, which gives you 1728, which is written right here. So that's pretty much the basic operators. Now, there's another one that you also have to know that not many people know about, and this is called the modulus operator. So modulus literally just finds the remainder. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and since it's a whole integer without any remainder, this line right here is going to print out 0. So 12 mod 3 is 0. So if we change this up to, let's say, 5, or actually, no, let's just do this, mod 5. What will this print out? If you said 2, that's correct. 5 times 2 is 10, 12 minus 10 is 2. And there we go, so 2 right there. So we're going to comment all of this out and move on to conditional statements. So conditional statements are just statements that, or lines that are executed based on some sort of condition. So let's say we're going outside and we check the weather, and the weather says it's raining. So basically in our mind, what we're saying is, if it's raining, we're going to pack an umbrella. If it's not, we don't pack an umbrella. This is exactly what this program does. So we have a boolean, which is a true or false statement, and we just set it to true. So if rain is equal to true, then we bring an umbrella. Else just means if not, anything else besides the first condition, we don't pack an umbrella. So else means if it's false. So let's go ahead and test this out. Since it's true, it sees that rain is equal to true, and so it executes this block of code, and then it goes out of the conditional statement. So it says bring an umbrella. Now what if we change this to false? Of course, the second one is going to be executed, and it says don't bring an umbrella. So that's the very first really basic example of a conditional statement. So here we have another conditional statement, and here we utilize an else if, and this is if we have more than one condition. So string name is equal to Michael, and it says here if name is equal to Sam, then it prints out you are not invited. Else if it's Michael, which it is, it's going to print out you are invited. Else, meaning if it's neither of these two, then it's going to print out you are not invited. So Michael is the only person that gets invited. And if we run this, of course, it's going to print out you are invited. Now let's print this to Kate. Since it's neither of this, it goes into the else statement and it says you are not invited. And to prove to you that this is the else statement, we're going to write else here. You're not invited, else. So this gets printed out. Since this and this were the same, it could have done either, so I just wanted to show you that it's printing this one. So that's pretty much it. We covered a pretty decent amount of stuff. We covered what variables are, how to declare a variable, what are data types, the three main data types that programmers typically use, strings, basic arithmetics, conditional statements, and conditional statements with if, else if, and else. So that's pretty much it. In the next video, we're going to be covering some more topics. We're going to go over loops, like while loops and for loops, and a few more topics. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next tutorial session. Thank you.